Hi guys, how's it going? Rizmo here and welcome to the Pro League recap. We're going to be taking a look at all of last night's results, viewing tonight's fixtures, current standings, and talking a bit more in depth about a couple of games. So in the first game of last night we had Optic Nation taking on TK. This one finished 3-1 in favour of Optic Nation. Optic Nation won the first Solar Hardpoint 227 to 151. TK then won the Search Biolab 6-3. Optic Nation then won the Comeback Uplink 16-13, and they finally took the last map, which was a Compound Hardpoint 126 to 250. Now we move on to the Epsilon versus Elevate fixture. Now Epsilon actually went 2-0 up in this one, and Elevate managed to win 3 maps in a row and bring that one back to win it. We'll talk about that one a bit more in depth later in the show. We then had Denial versus Rise. Denial coming with the hot trio. They won the Biolab Hardpoint 220 to 193. Temp dropping a 40 bomb in that one. Next we went to a S&D Solar, which finished 6-3. Again, Temp he led the lobby at 10-4 and Hook went 9-5. Then to finish we had Denial winning the Uplink Parliament 6-3. In the final game of the evening we had Isolation Empire versus Optic Gaming. This one finishing 3-1 in favour of Optic Gaming. The first map we had a Hardpoint Drift, which finished 196 to 212 in favour of Isolation Empire. Optic Gaming then won the Biolab S&D 4-6. Crim going off in that one with a score of 13-7, and then over on the side of Isolation we'd have it going 11-8. Then went to an Uplink Comeback, which Optic Gaming won just by the skin of their teeth at 15-14. Formal really playing well there at 42-26. Crim again had a very bad game. He went 9-29. It's one of the worst performances I've seen out of Crim in a very long time. Then the final map was a Hardpoint Detroit, which Optic Gaming took again very close, 216 to 210. Scump really showing that he is the best player in this game here. He went 41 to 29. Then on the side of Isolation we had Silly going 40 to 33 and Dito going 39 to 31. Now we move on to the matchup of the night for me, which was Epsilon versus Elevate. So in the first map we had a Hardpoint Drift. Epsilon took this one, just about 202 to 184. Royalty pretty much went off in this game. He was the top slayer for both teams, I believe. He went 41 to 31 with a 1.32 KD. Just one point I want to mention, I think Royalty's host is very, very powerful for Epsilon. I think he lives somewhere in Canada, so everybody in the lobby bar himself was 3-barring. So that could be, we could definitely see Royalty being vetoed now in the whole new system of each team being allowed to veto one host. Again, this game was pretty close. It was pretty even throughout. One team would get about a 20-30 point lead, then the other team would come in, break the hill, kind of even it up a bit. I believe going into the last hill, the deficit, I believe it was Epsilon were winning by 5 points, so it was very close. Could have gone either way. Epsilon just managed to show their extra bit of quality and take that one. Map 2 then we had a Riot S&D. Again, it was kind of give or take, pretty even. Epsilon ended up winning this one 6-3, I believe. Swanee really going off. He went 11-6. He led the lobby in terms of kills, and no one on the side of Elevate was positive, which is kind of surprising. Elevate, their players definitely are not renowned as a strong search team, but I think it's Apathy had a really poor performance there. I think it's kind of like Apathy will either win you the game or he will lose you the game in S&D. So that was one thing to note there. Third game then went into a Detroit Uplink, and this was one of the worst losses I've seen in a very long time. I think about a couple of minutes into the game, Swanee was 3 for 13. Apathy was playing really well. He was showing his quality, while Elevate picked him up. Remy 5 and 17 at the end of the first half. Elevate were actually 7-1 up by the end of the first half. Epsilon just couldn't do anything. I mean, it really showed that their communication and teamwork just really isn't there as a team yet. But you think with the 2 former players from TR and Remy and Nagafen, who were probably the best uplink team I've seen all year in Advanced Warfare, they would be actually good at uplink, but they just completely fell apart here. Again, the final score finished 15-4 in favour of Elevate. Apathy finishing 13-15, probably the the most notable player in this game, Remy, finishing 15 to 29, which really just is not good enough on the side of Epsilon. Map 4 then was a hardpoint Detroit, and it was pretty obvious from this that the bad beat Epsilon took, they just couldn't recover from this. They don't really have that in-game leader that will show. He'll just lead the team when they need it most. Right now they just couldn't get back up to where they were the first 2 games. Elevate had a 30-point advantage by the time the 3rd hill came around. That only kept getting bigger. By the time the 4th hill came, they had a 50-point lead. Pretty much throughout the whole game they had a consistent 30-point advantage over Epsilon. The second to last hill there was only a 10-point deficit. Epsilon started to get back into the game. Unfortunately, it was too late for them. Elevate really kept control in that last hill, and they ended up winning that one 201 to 165. Now going into the game 5 S&D Biolab, Epsilon really needed this. Like when you're a team going 2-0 up, you can't really afford to drop 3 maps in a row. That will not do wonders for the team morale. Again, this one was very give or take. Elevate actually ended up coming out 6-4 winners. It was 4-4 round 8, and then Elevate managed to win 2 rounds in a row to take the series. The first game of tonight's games in the 3rd day of the MLG Pro League, we have Faze going up against Elevate. I'm going to take a 3-1 win there for Faze. Then we have Orbit versus Epsilon. I'm going to go with a 3-1 win there for Epsilon. Followed by that is Envy versus Optic Nation. I'm going to go with a 3-1 win there for Envy. And finally, to end the night, we have Team Caliber coming up against Isolation Empire. I think I'm going to take a 3-2 win there for